Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary with a knife video for you. This one's just going to be a fun video, very casual, just to show some cool but bigger blades and what I think of as sort of some tougher stuff. And so let's imagine that, you know, the zombies are coming. The world has collapsed into total anarchy, and you know we're now living in Fallout 3 or you know in The Walking Dead or one of those other post-apocalyptic situations. What is the stuff that I'd want to have with me? What are some of the knives that I might recommend for myself or to members of my party, or maybe a friend or neighbor comes by and says, hey, I don't have anything, can you give me something? What would I recommend? What would I lend out? Whatever the case may be, okay? And so if you want to watch this video just to see a bunch of cool blades, that's how I'd recommend watching it. I guess you could also take this as, here are some recommendations from me for very hard use blades, very durable, useful, practical blades, okay? So let's get started. This is going to be first off the Rat Model 1, and it's first number one because I'm going to start kind of with the smaller stuff and go towards larger stuff. And number two, the price point on this I think is one of the cheaper things here. And so, you know, Rat Model 1, if you just need a really durable, practical folder, you're hard pressed to go wrong with this. It's extremely tough. It's extremely practical. You know, the shape of the blade and the handle and the overall design means it can do anything that you might need to do. You know, whether you're going to have to, you know, if you've only got one knife with you and you're going to have to cook your supper with it, and you're also going to have to defend your life with it, and you're also going to have to, you know, make a spear with it, or you know, pry on car parts or whatever else. Hey, Rat Model 1 is a really good option, and it's one that anyone can easily get their hands on. Another really good option that's along those lines is the Cold Steel Recon 1. Now these have gone up in price recently because Cold Steel has upgraded their materials. This is the AUS-8 version, and I love this knife. I've got a lot of use on it. You can see that I've stripped mine down, and I much prefer it in this configuration. Now I will say with the newer versions, if you go with the DLC coated Recon 1, you're not stripping it down like this, okay? DLC coating is not like the Teflon coating they used to use when I got mine, but I love this knife, and it's just super tough, reasonably priced. Now it's going to be more than the Rat 1, okay, but it's still reasonably priced, and especially if you go and look for the AUS-8A version, these can be had for a pretty good price, especially now that they've switched to the upgraded material. So Recon 1, there'd be a number of Cold Steels that I would kind of put on this list, okay? Another good option is the Zero Tolerance, 0200. Very, very tough, overbuilt folder, really good in terms of in terms of its usefulness. The edge geometry is good enough that this can cut and slice, but it's still thick and heavy duty, and the construction is very durable and tough. So you got a great combination here of a knife that can take a beating, but can also, you know, slice up a piece of fruit, or, you know, cut open packaging or boxes or whatever. Just a great knife. This is, I've said this many times, this is a favorite Zero Tolerance for me. I just find it to be a great all-around blade. Has a lot of things going for it that I really like. And so yeah, now the price point on this is obviously higher. And these are going out of, I think they might already be out of production. So if you want one, they're still easy to find right now, but don't miss out on this. These are great blades, and in a few years they could be pretty hard to come by. All right, now I do have a couple of more expensive folders, and I've got them because of the fact that I know a lot of people buy these kinds of knives just for the purpose I'm talking about. You know, someone who's a soldier or police officer who knows they might need their knife to defend their life, or to save them out of you know, a disastrous situation. The XM18 is a very well built, very robust folding knife designed by Rick Hinderer, and of course in some ways designed to be a knife carried by firefighters. And so I think, you know, if it's up to that task, it's up to just about anything else. And I've been very impressed with the XM18. Another knife that I would maybe even recommend over the XM18, it does have thicker blade steel, it does have a stronger lock bar, is the Farium Forge Ferrex. Now again, both of these knives are pretty expensive, but I'm going, hey, if this is the knife you're going to you're going to stake your life on, you know, maybe a $400 knife is not out of line for that kind of role, especially considering some of you, and probably a lot of you, carry a firearm that costs, you know, $500 to $1,000. A knife in that $500 price range is probably not completely out of line. And this one is one of the best overbuilt knives that I have ever seen, okay? It's overbuilt, there's no question. It's super thick blade stock, it's thick, heavy pieces of titanium, but this actually slices a little better than the XM18, which actually has thinner blade stock. So yeah, Ferrum Forged Ferrex is just a great blade. And in terms of hard use folders, this is one of the best that I know of. Now, probably some of you who know my collection would be expecting this knife. One more folder to go, and that is the Cold Steel Large Espada. Now, Cold Steel has a number of these great big folding knives, and if you need a folder, you know, maybe your loadout demands it, you don't have the space for a fixed blade, even though closed, this is as big as some small fixed blades. There's a great blade for, you know, the zombie apocalypse. You could really reach a lot of zombie brains with that sharp point, okay? And on the other hand, because of the way this blade is very long, you've got tons of reach, and the slicing power with all that belly is going to be, you know, phenomenal. If you can't get to the zombie's brain, you could easily chop its head probably nearly clean off with a good firm swipe of this knife. All right, and this is only the large. This is not the extra large. And so if you went with an extra large Espada or extra large Talware or a number of other big heavy duty Cold Steel folders, you wouldn't be disappointed, I don't think. Let's move on over into some fixed blades, and I do have a few here. How about the Becker Necker? Not as big as some of the knives I've shown you, but the benefit of even a small fixed blade is that it's a fixed blade. You're not worrying about this knife breaking off or having issues with the pivot and not being able to deploy the knife because dirt or something has gotten in there, or because, you know, you've damaged the lock bar or something like that. All of this really simplifies things, and you know you've got a knife that when you pull it out, it's going to do what you need it to do. It's not going to break, it's not going to close on you. And so even though it's a little smaller, it's a good option. And you could, you know, maybe you're carrying this, and you could always put this, you know, somewhere else on your person as a backup blade or something like that. I got a couple more here in the smaller category. This is the SE3, and you know, guys, SE is a great company. And one of the things that I like about SE, and one of the reasons that, you know, I have a lot of confidence in them, is their warranty. The warranty on these guys is basically, if anything happens to this knife that it breaks, doesn't matter what it is, we'll just replace it for you. You know, you could take this with your chop saw, your angle grinder, cut it in half and go send them 2 halves back, and they're going to be like, oh, sorry, we'll replace it for you. Now, a warranty like that says not that they're just willing to replace the knives, but that they're not worried about them breaking. Okay, so that's any SE is going to be a pretty handy tool for you. This one, of course, is small enough that you could pretty easily carry it anytime, anywhere, and it's not going to be too obtrusive. Along the same lines is going to be the DPX Hest. Now the blade is shorter and the overall knife is shorter, but it's thicker blade stock. So you're kind of getting a bit of a trade-off between this and the SE. This one, you've got maybe a little more of a robust tool, maybe better for prying or for batoning because of the extra thickness of it. But again, this knife, the name of this knife itself, HEST, is saying, you know, this is the tool you want for a bad situation. Okay, so the DPX Hest, again, a great option. If the zombies come, maybe I'll put this on my belt and, you know, throw this in my pocket or something along those lines, or maybe this in my pocket. Okay. Now, one more small fixed blade, and this one kind of represents a more combat style of knife. This is the SOG Seal Pup Elite, and really good knife. I've had really good luck with this, and even though it's designed more for combat with that very acute tip and more cutting edge here and some belly out toward the tip, I've done a lot of different tasks with this. I've batoned with it, I've done lots of cutting. It's not a good chopper, but because it's too light for that, but the thin edge geometry on this, thinner than a lot of those other fixed blades I've shown you, makes it slice really well. And so this is a great option. And of course, this is probably an option that could be your only knife. Okay, this could probably, it's long enough to fill a defensive role, it's small enough that it's easy to carry, so a really good option there with the Seal Pup Elite. And there is a bigger version of this, and the name of it is just evading me right now, but it's a really common knife, so someone in the comments fill that in if you wouldn't mind. But this is the Seal Pup Elite, but the SOG Seal Team maybe is like the larger version of this. Okay, so that gets us through all of the smaller blades and the folding knives. Let's look at some bigger stuff, and we'll start off first with the very budget-friendly Schrade SCHF9. You can see that this blade has seen a lot of use. It's a very good chopper. It has a lot of weight, okay? So look at the thickness of the blade stock on that. This is a super duper heavy knife. And because of that, it's super robust. Like, this thing is thicker than most pry bars. And certainly a few days ago, I actually took this and compared it to my actual flat bar that I have. And this is thicker than a flat bar, it really is. So when you talk about a sharpened pry bar, this meets that definition. The drawback of this knife is the same thing as what I've been talking about. It's so thick, okay, that it's very hard to get a usable edge on this knife, and it's very hard, you know, once you've gotten, you know, some chopping done and you're ready to now, I don't know, prepare your supper, or, you know, create a fire stick, you know, to create a feather stick, or any kind of more fine cutting task, this thing does not perform well in those rolls. All right, it could, if you took this exact same knife and just ground it a little thinner behind the edge, it would be a much better option. But it is a very budget-friendly option. So if you are one of those ones who's worried that, you know, the zombies are coming tomorrow and you don't really have time to save up for something a little more expensive, yeah, Schrade SCHF9 will do the job for you. Along those same lines, and this would maybe be the more expensive option that I had in mind, this is, of course, the SE6. And this is a great, great knife. This is, you know, in my mind, one of the better survival knives out there. It's small enough and light enough that you can pretty much keep it with you all the time. Yes, you're sacrificing a little bit of chopping ability, but it will chop, and I have chopped with it. It's not the best. It'll baton really well. It's tough as nails. And so, yeah, with this, you do have a great option for not only, you know, this is a big blade. You can really do a lot of damage to those zombie skulls with this. You do have the pommel on the back that's exposed, and you have a thick enough knife that you could chop down a tree for making a shelter. You can smash your way out of, you know, through windows, or, you know, work your way out of a car if you had to. This is a really, really handy tool. And the way the sheath is configured, this can go almost anywhere on your pack. You can, you know, it can be attached to molly webbing, it can go on your belt, do all kinds of things with this. And so the SE6 would be a great, really a nice all-around, as far as, you know, an all-around blade that maybe doesn't do anything extremely well, but can get by at pretty much everything. I think this is a really good option. Moving larger still, we can go up to the very well known and very well loved Becker BK9. This is probably, of everything that I've shown you, this would be the one that I would probably pick up first, just because, you know, if you've got this knife with you, you're pretty much ready for anything. Okay, it can chop, and it chops extremely well. It can also thrust, and so you've got that acute point, and the reach that you've got with this knife, you know, those zombie teeth aren't going to get anywhere near you before they've tasted the end of this big blade. When I took it out to the bush the first time, and you can see there's a fair bit of use on this, but the first time I took it with me, my son Joel, who really likes heroes and stuff, said, "Daddy, why are you bringing a sword?" And so that should tell you just how big this knife is. This is an awesome blade, very, very capable. And one of the cool things about this knife is the edge geometry on it is actually good enough that I was able to, and I did this purposely. I'm not, you know, I went in my backyard and I found a log about seven inches, maybe 8 inches. So at the upper limit of what this knife could deal with. And I just wanted to test out, is it possible to take this log from this giant useless thing down to something I could build a fire with. And with this knife, I was able to get that log down to, you know, I split it 4 times, then I split it 5, 6, I got it down to very small kindling. Then I went ahead and actually carved fire feather sticks out of that kindling. This is a really good edge that can do that really fine cutting as well as that heavy chopping. So really, really good blade. And of course, you know, if it comes down to, I had a video about a knife for self-defense, and if someone said, you know, you're gonna have to pick a knife for self-defense, this would be the one I'd really want, right? This thing is a beast. And so very, very handy, and an exceptional bush tool, just an amazing tool. Now, the one thing this probably isn't going to do well at is skinning, but there is some belly out here near the tip, so you could maybe hold the knife up here like that and slowly, carefully work away. It wouldn't be perfectly suited to that task, but it does everything else so well that I think it would still be a really good option. What else have we got here? Well, last but not least, I've got a couple things. Here is the SOG Tactical Tomahawk. Okay, and so whichever way you want to use this, you've got a lot of reach and you've got a lot of force behind your movements with this. And so yeah, you're going to be able to really take out some zombies with something like this. In addition to that, it's a little lighter than a hatchet, but boy, it can do a lot of jobs. You know, I have, with this, I've dug trenches around my tent to protect from rain. I have chopped down trees. I have even taken it up here and worked away to get some fine kindling. This is just a really good tool. And not only that, but if you're good at it, you could even get to where you can throw this pretty accurately and give yourself a ranged weapon as well as a fixed blade. So very good option. Of course, it is designed after the tomahawk that was issued to soldiers during Vietnam. But I find it's just a great all-around utility and camp tool as well. One more in this vein, and that is the CRKT Kanji. Now, these two are quite different, but both pretty awesome, okay? You know, when I'm going out and I'm going to do some stuff out in the bush, I never know exactly which one to pick, okay? I've used both quite a bit. You can see that there's lots of wear on this one as well as that one. I guess the advantage to this one would be if you hit a zombie in the skull, you've got this sharpened edge so that as you pry out, you're less likely to get your tool stuck in the first zombie you take out, so that the second one gets you. So yeah, really, really handy little tool. I have used this quite a lot and find it really, really, really useful. Because of this top, you can also, it gives you the option to do some scraping jobs, and because of the pointed back here, you can just really versatile. So there you go, guys. That is my sort of knives for the apocalypse. I know we've covered a lot of stuff there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you soon.